Hello, this is Infinity Nation with a webinar for you today covering some trends that we have been experiencing in the marketplace from different conversations with our clients and prospects and partners alike. It's challenging out there at the moment, and so we have done a piece of analysis which is data driven and should bring to the fore today. Our main aim is to discuss the challenges that are in place, talk about actionable strategies for addressing these, but most of all really just to settle and give some evidence behind what we see going on in the market and to give you some actionable takeaways at the end of today's session.
So you've probably all heard the recent government guidance about cutting marketing budget in order to kind of help your business move along. And we think it's quite the opposite. So we want to prove to you that, actually your marketing is something that's going to help buoy your business along in these difficult times. So in difficult times, marketing is usually the first head on the block. We want to set out these trends and actionable tactics for resilience for you, so that your marketing can really help you to continue to grow. There's evidence across 100 years that suggests that companies increase their marketing budget, come out with proportionately higher sales. And this is because by increasing it, these companies have a proportionately larger audience to market to. So we've had a look at these kind of trends, and we know that companies which increase marketing in a recession are proven to do better than their competitors in the long run. We've borrowed some great quotes from some really quite well-known business people that kind of back up what we're saying about marketing. So Henry Ford said, stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. And the CEO of Burberry says, never waste a good recession. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not Henry Ford, or my business isn't Burberry. But we've really kind of identified from the ECC events that we've done that whether your business is a multi-billion-dollar industry or whether your business is a cottage industry, we often face the same issues when we head into these difficult economic times. So in the next few slides, we're going to talk to you about, what you need to think about and how you can kind of move around those obstacles.
Great, thanks, Abby. I think it's easy, isn't it, for us to sit here and say, keep spending, keep the lights on. Those that keep the lights on do better coming out the other end. But at the same time, you've clearly all got board pressure to make the best of the budget that you've got available and make the right decisions. So one thing that we thought might be useful is an illustration, and this has been regenerated from that Marketing Moves article, and I'd recommend that's a great reading source, and the link's on the slide here for you to read at your leisure. But in this instance, what we're showing is there are 10 businesses and they are all looking to target the same one audience that you can see on this slide here. So in difficult times, board put pressure on spending, and 9 of those businesses halve their marketing budget. Meanwhile, the 10th business doubles their marketing budget. So previously, all of these 9 businesses had 10% share in that marketplace. The 50% drop in budget equates to a 23% drop in share. So that's decreased from 10% to 7.7. Now, again, you might be thinking, well, that's a win. Actually, I've cut my budget by 50% and I've only lost 23% share. But let's have a look and see what happened to the 10th business. The business that doubled their budget had 10% share, which then increased to 30.8%. So for double the increase in budget, they got 3 times the market share. And if you put that into context, that's 4 times the share of its nearest rival. And in our world, lower competition leads to lower competition in auctions and marketplaces, which typically leads to lower advertising costs. Which, if we think back to 2020, is what happened at the start of COVID. Lots of marketers pulled back and we saw the cheapest cost per clicks and CPAs that we'd seen in a number of years. So that's just an illustration for you, just to kind of solidify what Abby's just talked through.
So just moving on to remind you, I know that you already know who we are. We're Infinity Nation. And here's a little bit more about us, I guess, just to tell you how qualified we are to, talk you through these challenges. So the company was born in 2005. We're consultancy led. So what we do is we look at what your barriers to market are. We look at you on an individual basis, and we really make sure that your marketing plan is individualized. We're e-commerce focused, and we work with SMEs, but also we do it with larger companies as well. We've worked with bigger and more well-known brands as well. We're an 18-strong team, and we've got 30+ e-com clients at the moment. So what do we do? We're not just kind of an e-com digital agency. We like to position ourselves as a growth partner to e-com brands. So we kind of look at your whole kind of marketing plan as a holistic sort of entity. We act as your sat nav. We tell you where there are opportunities, where there might be gaps. We're very data driven as well. We really rely on data. Data is hugely important in our life. And we like to focus on challenge and education. So we really try to educate you, but also we will challenge you. If you say something and we don't think it's going to work, we'll certainly be clear about that. We have Ecom Collective. Those are our ecom events. They're a peer-to-peer networking event, and we have 3 cohorts in different areas of the country, and we have an event on each quarter, so 12 events a year. And most frequently, they're business owners and senior marketers will attend. And from these ecom events, we get insights from the market. So we'll talk to you about what's gone well and what's not gone so well, and really get those insights and drill down into what's maybe going to happen and what trends are out there over the next quarter and beyond.
Okay, so it's just a bit of framing about us, back to the main agenda and why we're all here. So undoubtedly, you're having discussions internally. We're certainly in quarterly, monthly, weekly meetings with our clients, and the sorts of things that we're hearing kind of spattered across this chart here. But rising wages, it's costing you guys more to hire great talent into your team to execute digital marketing strategies internally, which typically means you need to do better so that you can justify those increased salaries. Rising cost of living. Again, it's difficult for the consumer right now, and that's leading to a reduced share of wallet. You know, how hard you're having to fight to get that sale through from that end consumer. We're seeing rising customer acquisition costs, and with that, lower numbers of customers in market, or typically that's across most sectors what we're seeing. Margins are being massively squeezed right through the whole manufacturing, production, supplier, logistics, everything. At the moment, we're seeing price rises, which is leading to you earning less for every sale that you make, because your product isn't worth as much to you in terms of an individual sale. And some of the other stuff that we're hearing is, well, we're just not that brand. Like, we don't have as big of pockets of them. We have to make do with what we've got, and we completely support that. And we're trying to do our best creatively with the budgets that we're being given by clients, and new business that we're bringing in as well. But something that we're going to talk to through the whole presentation today is lots of the challenges here are all focused on acquisition. Everyone's fighting to acquire new customers. Lots of the strategies and maybe just some of the sparks that we'll initiate today are around, how can we do better through the whole funnel? How can we improve the whole conversion journey? And how can we retain these valuable customers that you've already got and make the most of those? Because it's a lot cheaper to get those to buy a second time or third time or fourth time than it is to, acquire that customer cold.
So we're asking the question, are the worries from marketeers justified? So we looked at a McKinsey report which recited recovery concerns in the UK. So concerns about recovery in the UK is at an all-time high. Rising prices are reported to be the top concern, with consumers significantly trading down in stores and products. So in response to price increase, consumers are cutting spend on all but food and gasoline and reducing energy use. 2/3 of customers say they responded to price increases by adapting their shopping behaviour, and consumers are switching from grocery stores to discounters, that's 28%, and from branded to low priced and private label products, that's 34%. So yes, people are worried about what is happening in the wider world at the moment. People are worried about the economy, but actually thinking about how you can adapt your business to support their needs is really key here. Have you thought about, not just cross-selling, but actually down-selling? Is there a product that you're selling that actually there's a cheaper version that you can start to think about and push to your customers, as opposed to perhaps that higher price point that might not be so attractive at the moment?
Yeah, great points there, Abby. To continue, I guess, a slightly depressing trend, over the last 2 years, we've had it really good. Online has been, really been driven through COVID as the place to purchase as a consumer. We've seen highs here back in January 21. That was record breaking in terms of the share that internet retail sales made of all sales that happened in the UK that year. The source for this data is Statista. What we did see was this January that had declined to 30%, so quite a drop. And right now we're seeing the internet sales share down at 26.4%. But what I would like to draw on is this chart clearly only goes back to January 2020. The average for 2019 was 19.2%. So when we consider that, actually, internet is still really high, massively high compared to where we were at a couple of years ago. And lots of the discussions we're having with clients is 2019. It's so long ago that you feel bad for doing it, but that is the best point that you've got a neutral forecasting base point to jump off of. And the UK market is forecasted to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 3% over the next 3 to 5 years. So what that means in relation to the rest of the world is it is a bit slower, and those challenges and those worries that our consumers have, we are feeling it a bit more than others, but in relation to the rest of the world, that's in at 6%.
Thanks, Stacey. So kind of moving on from this, we looked at McKinsey again, McKinsey & Co. Europe Consumer Pulse Survey, to look at whether rising prices are top of UK consumer woes. And as you can see, they are. If we look at our friends in Europe, you can see that they're not quite as concerned about rising prices as we are in the UK. Despite the pandemic's continual grip on societies in Europe, rising prices and the invasion of the Ukraine are now they've overtaken COVID-19 as top concerns for consumers. Now, we did see a big boom, didn't we, when COVID was at its kind of booming away in the background. And we did see the e-commerce have a huge rise during that time. However, now people are really concerned about those rising prices that have come out of those times. And we're thinking about how we can kind of tackle that, how we can make our products, make our services more enticing for the consumer. We're thinking about whether you've thought about Klarna or ClearPlay or ShopPlay or something similar like that, where people can pay in installments. So people still want to buy, it's just that they are concerned about those rising prices. And as you can see from those graphs there, yes, COVID-19 pandemic and unemployment, they're all still issues, but actually what we're really worried about in this country are those rising prices. Handing back over to Stacey.
Thanks. I think it's really personal, isn't it, in terms of how to capture that sale despite these concerns. And we talk a lot about our clients, things like social proof and making sure that we're showing consumers why your product is the best out of others. And I think in a time where people aren't getting their credit card out immediately to make that sale, we need to do everything we can in our power to reassure them that that pound that they're investing, or that £50 or that £300 is a good investment, and it's worthwhile. So here's some data from our client base then. So we're looking at our MCC level in Google Ads and trending our overall top level CPC. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning, we've got some 30 plus e-com clients on our books. We've also got some lead generation and a spattering of other sectors. But in the main, this is e-commerce data, which is showing, trending in line with some of the other rising prices that we're seeing. But typically, when we're doing forecasting, where Google's concerned, we always allow a 10% buffer per year, because they do tend to increase prices, not in every marketplace, not in every sector. So actually, an increase of 25% since 2019, although it is going to hurt when you're looking at that, historic data, certainly on last year and 2020, when we saw those really cheap CPCs compared to other years, it's actually not a huge increase. And we'd like to talk to you a bit more over the next few slides about adapting and looking at other channels where maybe we don't have that reliance on this acquisition, this paid media all the time. So, what you're doing about SEO concurrently to this is just PPC data. Of course, if you're reliant on this, it's going to hurt your business more than a client that has been investing in SEO for the last 3 years and is now improved those ranking positions for generic terms and doesn't need to have that reliance on paid.
So yes, in terms of that reliance on paid, a little bit of a deeper dive into into some reporting from SEMrush. So it was stating the average CPC has increased by two times over the last few years. So average cost per click cost across various inventories in Google. So the search network at the moment, the average cost per click is £1.95. Then we can look down at the display network where it's just under 50p and shopping just above 50p. So this kind of tells us that even though a lot of us like to use the search network, actually for that brand awareness piece, for that kind of funnel marketing, top of funnel brand awareness, display network might be a more economic way to reach your audience. And then by using shopping, then you can pull them further down the funnel into that kind of conversion. So really, it's not just about using the usual kind of search ads. It's about really utilizing everything and thinking how and where you can best place your budget. So the average cost per click as well across other social media platforms, we're looking at LinkedIn 4.55. So really asking yourself if you do need to be using those very highly focused ads that LinkedIn can often kind of deliver. Google ads at 99p. Instagram at £1.04p, and then looking a bit further down into Twitter and Facebook, where we really see kind of those brand awareness, particularly in Facebook, those brand awareness kind of areas, it's a little bit cheaper. So you really need to think about not just, am I converting from these Facebook ads? Am I converting from these Instagram ads? But are they actually top of funnel delivering more people to land on your website? More people to then, purchase your products and your services. This can really be identified by using tools such as programmatic. One of our clients did find that they were using programmatic. It was working well. It was driving people to their website. They decided to pull back on their programmatic spend, pulled the spend right down, and then found that actually it was significantly reducing visitors to their website. And on top of that, that had a direct effect on their kind of direct to customer conversions as well. So actually, it may not have shown that there were lots of conversions coming from programmatic, but it was really having an effect on the business overall. So it's worth really thinking about these brand and awareness pieces and, where you need to invest your money when you're thinking about, the cost per click and what you can get out of it.
And just to push on with that, really, this chart is here just to kind of educate on where the most expensive CPCs are being seen. So across retail, which broadly our client base and people that we're talking to who maybe aren't a client of Infinity Nations would typically be in one of these retail categories, so such as jewelry, fashion, retail, home and garden. What we're actually seeing is fitness and health are the highest of the retail categories that we can see here. So that's in at 62 pence per click on average. And this data is a Statista report, which is within SEMrush. So, just to echo Abby's points, really, let's consider if we've got, say 56 pence to spend per click, or that's the market rate at the moment for beauty and skincare. How can we maximize the use of that? How are you using email for your retargeting and follow-up strategy? So you don't have to rely on that paid click again to retarget and that you get the customer back to your website. How can you be smarter with plugins and tactics on site to get that customer down the conversion funnel and get them through? And how can you think about the whole blend of your media as well? As we say, take a part away and unexpectedly it might have a really detrimental impact on the rest of the piece. So let's not discount these upper funnel strategies just because they don't have nice UTM tracking parameters that you can follow all the way through into Google Analytics and see the spend and the click and everything else associated with it. We really do need to put longer term sort of 90-day testing strategies in place so that we can measure and evolve over that period.
And just to add to your point, really, Stacey, about kind of looking at the data that we've got over these really busy times during COVID, all of the customer data that we now have, I think sometimes we don't use that as best we can. So as you said, in those email campaigns, really looking at segmenting your audience, really looking at targeting them with, what have they been interested when it was lockdown? There's likely they're still going to be interested in the same things, and there's just different ways I think that we can approach and position those products to really make them enticing to the customer now, despite all the difficulties that we're seeing. So just moving on from that, we're looking at three major trends that have contributed to the rising in cost per click now in a little more detail, just to give you a bit more background.
So The first thing that we've noted is platform competition, certainly over the last 2 years. Here's some food for thought. 24,000 ecom businesses were started in 2021. So it's a huge number, but there's not a huge amount of context with that. So let's consider it compared to the previous year. That's a 21% increase on new ecom businesses that were started in 2020 by comparison. This research comes from an Instant Offices research piece, which was done using Companies House data. So if we think about how we can adjust to the changing consumer behaviour, lots of businesses moved online. Marketers diverted their funds into digital marketing. I guess we could say that digital is now uncontroversially the lowest risk and highest return advertising channel. I think a lot of what we're talking about here today is you're starting to feel the wobble with that, you as clients, like you're not trusting it. It's not your banker channel like it has been for the last 2 years. It's behaving differently. So why is that? Let's remember, auctions, we're all in auctions. Everything we bid on, whether it's Facebook Business Manager, Google Ads, LinkedIn, we are in an auction with other competitors. So that CPC you're paying right now, or were paying in 2021, or were paying in 2020, is directly linked to how many competitors you're bidding against and what they're willing to bid, which is why we saw such low rates in 2020. We saw it hike a bit into 2021, but still those advertisers, these 24,000 businesses, they were getting established. They weren't throwing a lot of marketing, at those channels yet. But certainly these newer players will come in, and almost certainly some of the first channels that they will invest in will be digital channels, and that's going to directly affect the competition. And we've seen it on Auction Insight reports, certainly with Google Ads over the last year or so, that it's sporadic. That list changes week on week, and it's because marketers are bursting spend. They're not always on. We're still up against those big players that have got that kind of budget.
The next trend that we've seen are rising personalisation capabilities. So these all kind of add up to your quality score. So your expected click-through rate plus your ad relevance plus your landing page experience will add up to your quality score, and how Google looks at your ad and at your website, and how people, people's journey to reach you. So we can kind of help with your expected click-through rate and certainly your ad relevance. So definitely we're writing ad which is relevant to whatever it is you're trying to communicate. But what is really important is that your landing page experience as well is one that's beneficial and one that is relevant to your potential customer. So it's really up to you to make sure that those landing pages are super personalized. So, what the person is expecting, they land on, there's plenty of information there. Images and media really serve that page well. You need to look at your audience as well. Can you reach them through kind of the same message, or these rising personalization capabilities give us the ability really to, with technology, really segment our audiences. This means creating unique ad campaigns for each audience segment rather than using just a one size kind of fits all advertising strategy for your entire customer base. So really segmenting your audience, you're really feeding into what matters to them. Is going to help you to kind of pull new customers and previous customers back to your shop. So according to Google, 90% of marketers say that personalization delivers better profits. And McKinsey's research states that early adopters of personalization have 50% higher returns. So we've worked in the past with, content management systems that kind of, or tools that look at can work with Shopify to really help you to kind of personalize your shopper's experience. So Styler is one of the less expensive tech options. And certainly if you are interested in personalization capabilities, then we've certainly got the experience, and the kind of network, the contact with these different technical tools that can help you, if you want to invest a little bit more into that area, which I think is super, super quick.
And that's all around this improving the website's relevance, isn't it, Abby? The whole point that you would invest in these tools, again, it sounds like we're saying invest in this new shiny thing to make personalization and improve your website. Actually, it can just be small changes like this, just making sure your website maps back, as Abby's already talked about, different messages for different audiences, and make sure that the ad copy and search term then all flows through sort of in nice linear fashion. Because back to the point that we made earlier, if that quality score improves, so does your CPC in terms of that goes down compared to your competitor base. And moving on from that, the third trend, and the final one that we'll talk about now before we move into some strategies, is that CPC is rising because consumer expectations are also rising. So in COVID, lots of customers were sympathetic to online retailers. They were patient for deliveries. As long as you put a nice little notification on the website when they reach there, they were quite happy to wait maybe a week to have their product delivered. I think just as quickly people lose patience, and that's because the whole advertising space is a balanced ecosystem. So as advertising technology evolves, so do audiences' expectations. So big players such as the brands that you can see on the left here, and many more, many top level retailers, they can invest, they can test, they've got that budget there to try new forms of ad experience. And as the customer experiences these, that then tends to raise the bar, and that's what their expectation is of other players. So this adds a lot of pressure on smaller players with lower budgets, such as maybe our client base that we're dealing with, that maybe that challenger space, or 1 to 5 million turnover, looking to push on to get to 6 to 10. You need to make sure that you're relevant and you're exceeding that consumer's expectation at every single point. So this consumer here is used to an immersive multi-channel world where apps just work, and they've got that sort of UX journey mapped out. So again, with the whole sort of balanced ecosystem here, if you've got the budgets to throw at it, you're one of these larger players that can have that always on strategy, you will reap the rewards rather than someone that's trying to do the same level of marketing on a shoestring budget and maybe not having that consistent presence. So we've talked a lot about this, but consumer experience directly translates to quality score. We're talking about these acquisition channels. Quality score, Google Ads tends to be the main one that our customers use. So if you can't reach that customer's expectation, you'll end up with lower quality scores. And as we've already talked about, that translates directly to a higher cost per click, which then will benefit that competitive set that you're in the auction with.
So moving on, you might find this one quite interesting. We worked with, we've been having conversations with SendCloud. So who are SendCloud? They're kind of a shipping platform. They're across Europe, and they offer really quite, not too expensive options, lots of options for shipping. So we wanted to look at how customers abandon purchases for the following shipping reasons, and why customers abandon shipping. So 68% of people said that they abandon shipping because costs are too high. So this can really lead to food for thought for you. Can you get people to add something extra to their basket and offer free shipping? It's something that seems quite simple, but certainly will help to improve your kind of conversion rate. We also looked at 44% of people will abandon purchases if the estimated delivery time is too slow. So again, super important that you're working with a reliable shipping platform. 20% of people abandon purchases because the past experience they had with the delivery company wasn't very good. So again, really important. Delivery is super important at the moment. We've so got used to wanting something, having it now, and having it quickly, and having it having a really good experience that is really important. And we also found that 8% of people were really interested in the green aspect of shipping. So 8% would abandon a purchase if there was no CO2 neutral shipping option available to them. So again, it really is worth you almost auditing your shipping and seeing if there is anything that you can add as a value to your customer. If your customer is, satisfied with, delivery times and the experience that they're having with your delivery company, and also, is there an option for them if they are green, if it is super important to them to have maybe a slower option that is CO2 neutral.
I think that's a trend, isn't it, that we are seeing, and at the moment it's probably one that people are putting on the back burner while they're trying to attack the rising prices. So if we focus there, actually it's quite a positive outlook. Like this research that SendCloud did on consumer sort of attitudes that Abby's just cited some trends from. Another stat that came from that was if we join that 45 and 24% there, that's 69% of consumers are actually happy to put something else in their basket, or the ones that were surveyed would be happy to add something else in to reach that free shipping threshold. So back to Abby's point, we'd urge you all to think about how you're cross-selling that far down the funnel. Maybe lots of you are on Shopify, which means that you don't have edit checkout access. There are solutions such as Shopify Plus, which clearly come with that higher price tag. But if we business case and modeled it and we could get another percentage or 2 or 3% more through that funnel, then that would offset, increasing costs and tech and platforms that our customers are seeing as well. And I guess the other thing is, back to Abby's original point on audience segmentation, and one of our themes throughout this whole talk today has been, who are the cohorts that are in your database? Could you segment them and work out who you've got that might fit this profile, who your best customers are, who do that higher average order value, and how are you treating that customer? So this research also found that millennials typically have higher average order values, which makes them a really good target for repeat purchases. So if we're looking at that average being £89.50 average order value, but within that same qualified set, the average order value of a millennial being £140 nearly, that's a considerable increase. So it'd be worth putting the extra effort into a relevant and personalised marketing strategy to reach that target audience.
And just moving on from that, we had a look at, how people are purchasing as well. So 90% of UK consumers shop via marketplaces. So SendCloud research, still with SendCloud, their research suggests that UK consumers have the highest purchase frequency rate in Europe. Almost 1/3 of UK consumers buy online once a week or more, and millennials have the biggest share of that. And as you can see there from those stats, 91% of UK consumers use marketplaces. This is followed up by web shops. 77% use web shops, so your product goes direct to the customer. And the UK also has a high percentage of online purchases via social media as well. So as you can see there, 20% of people will buy using social media. So I think that these kind of these statistics outline that actually, social media, there is a place for it in your conversion rate. It might be that it's a lower price point product that you advertise on social media if you're looking to convert, but certainly people will purchase via social media. As well as, obviously, people always looking at marketplaces. They're cheap, they're quick, it's very convenient for people. But still standing there is your web online shop as well. So that direct to customer is super strong as well here in the UK. So really kind of linking that to the points raised earlier around shipping rates and higher consumer expectations. Unfortunately, UK customers won't hesitate to abandon their journey in favour of a tried and tested entity. So you are still up against, these marketplaces such as Google, where you all have to pay the premium and not the customer, which is why the customer gets a knockdown price. So it's really worth considering, what your customer journey is like on your web store, when you've got all of this competition, when you're up against all of this competition. So as you can see, that kind of graph there on the left hand side is looking at kind of top online e-commerce market stores in the UK, and those are the sales in US dollars. So those are UK stores, but the sales are in US dollars. And this data comes from ecommerce.com. We've cited all of our references in the appendix at the end, but it's based on stores that are generating revenue in the UK. And one of the fastest growing stores in the UK is Rutland's, which had 3.6 million in 2021, and it grew 432% on the previous year. So that's super interesting to maybe look at, what they're doing there. But no surprises in terms of Amazon being kind of the most popular and making the most money, followed by Tesco. And not forgetting, Argos, Sainsbury's again is a marketplace online store, and then Currys as well. So just having a look at those really big players already taking a massive slice of the pie, and how you can kind of position yourself so that your consumer, your customer is loyal to you.
I think just before we move on, the kind of the key point here is that if you lose your customer to one of these marketplaces because you aren't meeting that experience on your own website, then you don't own the customer. Amazon do, or Tesco do, or Argos do, so they own the rights to retarget to them, and get their second purchase. If you can find an incentive to keep them on your website, own them, they're in your email database, they're your customer. And again, back to the power of data and segmentation, I think that's really key. So what next then? So we've sent you on a bit of a journey, talked through some trends. We've explored why cost per clicks are rising in lots of industries. So we're at the forefront of working with SMEs and challenger e-commerce brands. And we as a business and a partner to those brands are having to adapt. Our clients are, the reasons why, but the fact is our clients are seeing CPAs creeping up. So our market awareness has to improve, be sharper. We're under more pressure from our client base to provide better insights, like why is that happening? Who are we up against? What's happened? Why has that driven that, that rise? Equally, we're being met with challenges and briefs from clients on how to diversify and how to look at other strategies that might help support, and so we're sort of turning lots of stones at the moment to try and get that mix together for how we can best assist our clients through this difficult time. So as Abby's already mentioned, one of our clients saw a sort of detrimental impact to removing some of their awareness strategies. So what we are going to explore over the next few slides is how to keep your eye on that market and some changes that we're making within our own SLAs and our own sort of service level agreements with our clients and some of the outputs that we have there to improve that insight. So one of the first things that we're doing more and more of, and this is a slide from a recent client document, is looking and understanding market demand and shifts. So it's a pretty standard practice here. This is a market sizing graph, which is taking impressions from Google Ad Planner and it's mapping it over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Now, like I said, it's not rocket science. We're not reinventing the wheel here, but we're finding ourselves doing much more of this trend analysis for clients and for prospects that are coming in as well. Lots of people want that sort of critical appraisal of where they are in the marketplace, what share of voice they've got, what opportunity there is to market and gain customers in that sector and how much they might need to spend to do so. So we're doing a lot more of these, we call them situation analysis projects. So, we've always conducted this activity, as we've said, but it's being called on more and more. So what we're doing about it, we want to make sure this is in more of our client presentations. We want to make sure that this is in our pitches so that we're able to, set the scene for clients and give that insight, give that why when we're presenting individual data sets. So what we're doing is automating this process so that it's replicable at the touch of a button rather than having to drag data out of Ad Planner and chart it and paste it and work out percentage increases and decreases, etc. And we've also worked out a way to segment it so we can look at top 10 or top 20, top 50 terms so that we're looking at the head terms versus some of the long tails, and we can do that by client market. So with this chart in particular, in this particular instance, it's not a very pretty story. Client was seeing great growth, and this is for a homewares brand, and then suddenly they've seen this drop. So first half of this year, the pink line here is considerably lower than what it was in 2021, and that's what lots of our clients are measuring against, and lots of standard reporting will look at month on month and year on year. What we're neglecting again here to think about, and back to those points earlier, is putting this in context. This is still 30% up on 2019, so over 30%. There's better demand in the marketplace than there was a couple of years ago. So there are still more markets. Back to that point on percentage of internet retail sales versus overall, it's still up there. It's still at sort of 26% as of April this year. So that's what we need to focus on, is how we move forward from here.
And so to help kind of support us move forward and help support you move forward, we've updated our forecasting methodology. So as you're being challenged to squeeze your margins, we're having to reforecast to maximum effectiveness from the spend that you have. We want to ensure growth for you. So this process is being rolled out for our quarterly meetings to ensure that strategy is aligned with your overall goals and deeper business metrics. So with this new reforecasting methodology, we're reinforcing our ACR model to help you kind of focus on the growth of your business versus a specific channel. and how different levers need to be pulled on building loyalty and repeat purchase. As we discussed earlier, you know, you've gathered a lot of customer data and a lot of customers over the COVID years. How are you going to best use those people and what they want to spend to kind of move forward and grow? How many new customers did you gain over COVID? It's probably a significant amount. How many have made second or third purchases? How much effort or focus has been put into testing different strategies on this cohort? So yeah, we're kind of including all of those kind of ideas into our forecasting, really. So not just looking at, you know, acquiring new customers, but also looking at those customers you've already got. That's a big chunk of your business, and you can really capitalize on that, you know, without, you know, that high cost per click, without spending that extra money. So we're going to move on in a couple of slides to, you know, a bit of a data analysis tool that we use, but that's certainly helping us with those customers or our clients that have certainly, you know, welcomed us to looking at their customer base. It's certainly helping us to kind of identify a lot of opportunities and the different segments that and how we can kind of position your product to those customers.
Yeah,
and so really. Sorry, Stacey.
I was just going to say, it's helping us with speed, isn't it, more than anything? Like, this is a demand that's being put on us by clients. Typically, like, they want to know, okay, with the market as it is now, for the same budget, what can I get? Because they need to go and put new strategies to their boards and their marketing functions. So we're investing our time and, you know, development in tools that help us get to the answer quicker for our clients, so that we can offer it across our client base more readily, I guess, rather than that sort of annual forecasting cycle that we were lucky to be in many years ago. Linking to that, budget pacing, again, it's sort of marketing 101. Put a budget in, typically a pace over how many days in a month, and you'd make sure that we weren't overspending, and that would be typically the main KPI of a media agency, would be to make sure that we stay within that spend threshold. So what we're being challenged on by our client base actually at the moment is, you know, could you have got more? Are you leaving sales on the table? So we need to make sure that we can use smart functions. So, for example, ad scheduling has been readily available in many platforms for a number of years, but to date, there aren't any sort of off-the-shelf pacing tools that allow us to look at historic data and then almost project how that trend might work over the coming months, so that we can reserve spend for those, you know, bank holiday weekends or evenings or middle of the day researching, so that we can pull back and then just bring the sales in sort of later in the day. So again, we're investing here in making our budget pacing methodology a bit more dynamic. So there's a project rolling out over the next couple of months, which will look to incorporate historic data so that we can model forwardly, but also doing smart things. And this is just one of a number of APIs that we're considering, which is weather APIs, for example. So lots of our client base, and historically we've seen it with the likes of Jules, in a previous life, worked with them, where they sell a very varied product set, but we don't want to be pushing wellies out to people when it's blistering sunshine on a weekend. So we needed to adapt sort of that shopping feed, and these APIs have already been always been available within Google, and there are many scripts that allow us to do this. But again, it's incorporating these scripts with other clever tech into a very simple process, so that we can maximize and squeeze, you know, every element of sort of success from that budget that you provide us with as possible.
So another tool that we found super useful, and I have touched on this before, in terms of kind of brand awareness, is StackAdapt. These brand awareness strategies, these kind of top of funnel tools that we've been using, have certainly seen our clients who use them benefit from them greatly. So StackAdapt uses kind of, it will take audience segments and it will help you to drive your kind of brand awareness to those different audience segments. So you can be super targeted. You can really customize your audience. Who do you want to reach with your ads? Right at the top of the funnel, people who've never seen you before. So you can target people reading about a particular topic or competitor on the web. You can target people during and after a visit to a particular physical location. You can target people on devices associated with a particular IP address, so geo-targeting, geolocation targeting. You can target people using mobile devices. You can target people by internet service provider. You can target contacts from a CRM list you uploaded. and you can intersect that with any other audience. So you can really drill down into who you want to focus on, who do you want to send your message to. So there's a bit of an example there on how you can reach people using this Stack Adapt programmatic custom segments. So if you've got a custom audience, you might be looking at people interested in shoes, and you might want to drive them to a physical location. So they could be in one of the shops that you kind of sell your shoes. I mean, you can really kind of directly target them on their mobile devices. So you can kind of intersect those different segments. You can target people, you know, at events. You can target people according to the weather they're going to see. You can target people on so many different levels, and you know, you can go as granular as you like. So we're finding this tool is working really well, you know, for those clients. And I think there's a lot more of you out there who this would certainly help to kind of support your kind of brand awareness strategies.
And then just sort of leading back into that data piece, really. So we've talked a lot today about that goldmine of data that clients like you are all sitting on. So how do we use it then? How do we get this into our acquisition strategy so we can be smarter with them? This is a data intelligence tool called Suite Analytics. We have a partnership with Suite Analytics, and therefore I'm sure that we've spoken to a number of our clients already about this, and we can make those introductions so that you get, you know, maybe a slightly preferential rate compared to what they would be marketing usually. But really, we don't use tools unless we absolutely back them, and this is one where it genuinely twofold has a benefit to us and our clients. So they have invested a huge amount in the technology and the sort of drag and drop functionality. This screen you're looking at here is their audience builder function, and in my view, this is the USP of Suite Analytics. So this allows us to kind of drag and drop, really. So we're looking at parameters, and we can build audiences from the clients, say Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Magento database, at clicks of buttons, really. And we can set date parameters, sort of last purchase, location, sort of if you name it, it's in there for us to be able to pull out and create those audiences very quickly. So the benefit here is that we've got the audiences at our fingertips. The second big benefit to Suite Analytics is its ability through a number of APIs, again, that they've invested in, and they've just added new ones for Snapchat, Pinterest and TikTok as well, so that those costs will be able to sync into here, and you'll be able to sync these audiences directly back into platform. What that means is data protection, which is a hot topic in many businesses, is protected because it's all done hashed already through the API uploader. There's no need to export email addresses, send them over to us, and for us to manually upload them and handle your customer data. So that typically is a concern amongst our client base, so it does help us bypass this. And what it allows in return is it's faster. We don't have to send you a list of data requests, wait for you to export them, upload them, create new audiences. The audience is there within seconds, and they can be dynamic and automatically refresh, as well as new customers that meet those cohort criteria are put in the right bucket. They've also got sort of loads of other functionality within the platform, but that's the main thing that we would sort of encourage our client base is, if you use this tool or not, it's a case of make sure you are segmenting that database. Who are those best customers? What behaviors tend to lead to the best type of customer? And how can you feed that back to us as your growth partner to make sure that, you know, we've got the best chance of getting the best return on investment for your spend. Okay.
So really, just to conclude there, we're just going to kind of summarize now those top tips for e-commerce success via paid media. So number one, it's important for brands to build a significantly better digital presence and impression share. Number two, it's quite challenging for small and medium scale brands to stand out in a highly competitive space. So you need to make sure that you stand out. You need to make sure that your brand identity is super strong, and you need to show what differentiates you from your competition. In pre-pandemic times, the major goal was to outperform the competitor, but in the current scenario, it's important to outperform the previous best experience that they've had. So it might not be the competitor, it might be the previous best experience they've had. The next point, focus on helping the customer to find exactly what they want. The whole digital ecosystem must be focused on helping your customer find exactly what they want, given the huge range of options that are out there. So make sure that they're able to find exactly what they want, serve their needs, deliver what they need. The next point is making the most of first-party data available to optimize campaigns and marketing objectives to find and fit the best strategy. So right now you've got that first-party data. You've really increased your customer base across the pandemic. Use that data to kind of tap into those people who are already invested in your brand and in your products. So one of the key, maintain a strong impression share and focus on strong content and effective ads. One of the key components is trying to maintain this high impression share. With the campaign building becoming more automated, it's often easy to lose track of good quality ad scores. So focus on strong content and effective ads, and this could result in lowering CPCs as well. Make sure that you're exploring all available options and ensure that all of your kind of options, all of your channels complement each other. SEO, paid search, email, they must be treated as different ingredients of the same pie rather than treating them as separate entities. So you really need that integrated, joined up marketing plan to really support you and support your growth over the coming few years. So just concluding there, I'm handing back over to Stacey.
Thanks, Abby. So I think crucially now we've talked at you for best part of an hour, and we've taken you through a journey of what's going on in the market, some trend analysis, what we're seeing from our own database, and some potential solutions. Now I'd urge you all to think about what your sort of 30, 60, 90-day plans look like and how we can tackle some of these things with you as a growth partner. So actually, can we be doing more with data? What's the deadline on us exploring that and being able to implement that in our strategies? Who's only looking at acquisition strategies and you're just fingers crossed hoping that PPC improves and goes back to how it was in the last couple of years? Or should we be considering awareness strategies? How quickly can we look at a testing budget for that to see the impact on the wider piece? And critically, I guess, is let's sense check the forecasting that we've got in place. Like, what are these targets that we're working to at the moment, and do they need to be adjusted given the current market conditions? Where your margins are being squeezed internally, are they viable to market for a first-time customer acquisition on paid channels, or do we need to think about smarter and different techniques? So I'll just part with saying, look, we operate with a consultancy team who are central to our delivery teams within the business. We give open access to those delivery specialists, but in these times where you really need to tap into that knowledge on your specific client account, use the consultants that you've got available. Let's have grown-up commercial discussions around what is and isn't working, and let's make sure that we can pivot and realign those strategies so that we're all focused on the new goal, I guess, which is still the same one, which is maximising return on your investment and getting you sort of maximum growth in customers. But in times like this, we do need to adapt and evolve. So thank you very much for listening. So if there are any questions at all, please do feel free to get in touch. Our contact details on this slide here. Clearly, you know us anyway, and we'll follow up with the deck should you request it, and all of the sources that we've mentioned today. So thanks very much.
Thank you.